Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast with your hosts, Kyle Borganoni and Matthew Betz.
Welcome in. August 1st here on the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I am joined, as always, by Matthew, ready to recoup his Trey Lance losses bets.
What a game. I mean, that performance last night, dude. Trey Lance, I still believe he could be the guy. Not really. In the CFL, maybe? I mean, dude, I'm just saying, there's other leagues where Trey Lance could be great. And we saw that last night. So, yeah, man, Hall of Fame game happened. Football is back on our TV. Training camp is here. Everybody's in the best shape of their life. Ahead of schedule. All the things. It's August. It's peak draft season. It's go time.
You should definitely formulate that in just one tweet. All of the sayings in just one tweet and just have them all together as a run-on sentence. Because that's where we're at. We're just combining everything that we know about football and getting to turn the page. Like us recording this episode and me looking at the calendar August 1st. The tinglies are happening. And then what there's some people out there, I don't know if you saw them, but they were posting week 1 salaries for DFS in our Discord. Like, who are those idiots?
Imagine going outside right now. I mean, that was 2 months ago. We had our fun 2 months ago. Now it's time to sit down, conditionally format the salaries for week 1.
Lock in. Get
your strategy ready for cash. No, it's so funny. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I put together a cash lineup just for just seeing what it could look like. Hey, if A-Rich wins that job, man, $5,100. That's a nice tag. But yes, you were doing that, and I know you posted that on Twitter as well. It's so funny. I actually love when the salaries come out for week 1 because it kind of does feel like for us sickos, like the unofficial start of like the season is here, it's coming. But yeah, that was pretty funny, and the fact that some other people in our Discord were also putting together a couple of lineups when we know nothing, right? Yeah, there's no projections. We don't even know who's actually healthy, like all those things. You guys are sick, and we love you for it, and so are we.
You're outside right now, I'm assuming, or you're on a run, as our listeners do, or you're on the can, whatever you're doing. Yeah, week 1 DFS is just around the corner. So for the month of August, we start to turn the page. We're still going to be talking best ball on this episode. Betz and I will answer some questions, talk about some of our exposures, some strategy-based stuff, but we will start to introduce more of the DFS concepts where we're talking at a high level of how to sustain this long-term for you. So if you've been playing for a while, it's a refresher, but also a chance to re-envision you of how to play DFS, hopefully the right way, hopefully you're managing your bankroll, and then helping you win tournaments throughout the year. And we've had some great listeners and people that have the DFS pass every single year. And then I feel like I'm bearing the lead because I went back through our notes from last year. I forgot we had a good prop season. No, sorry. We had a way too hot prop season. So like that's just around the corner.
Prop season is here. Thank goodness. Because I mean, you guys know that I need help. But I've been firing at some MLB stuff here and there, but it's not my thing. NFL is my thing, so I need the NFL back because the MLB results have not been great, if I'm being quite honest. So, yeah, it's time to get football back in our lives. We have some season-long props up already in the DFS Pass. We'll have more over the next few weeks. And then, yeah, prop season is here, man. Really good season last year. I felt we had a really good read on playing time and roles and usage and matchups and all those things, and that's what goes into it. Every year, it gets harder to win in props because the markets get more efficient. So I would be surprised if we can replicate last year's results, if I'm being completely transparent and honest, which we always preach on the show. But we're going to try, and hopefully you guys are along for the ride, so it should be a good season.
And when we share results with props, the goal is to be transparent. We post everything. We give you alerts. We want people to see, like, hey, we're not just making this up. We're not trying to, Betz and I don't get paid per prop or per sign up or anything like that. We just want you to be able to, win some extra cash. So last year, I'm looking at our 2024 weekly record after the Super Bowl, which is still crazy to say, but we were 124-67. That was a 65% win rate. That is way too high. And plus 38 units. So, that's the bar. And if you hit lower than that, Betz, I'm sorry.
based off hearing that, what I would recommend is fading everything we take this year.
I think we
Just
said
do the
that the year
opposite.
before. Yeah.
Can you imagine?
We will have episodes also discussing like how we come to the conclusion of taking some of these props, and mostly it's, hey, let's bully some guys like Van Jefferson. It's just let's find guys like that, take their under if the sports books are laying it, and it's the least sexy thing to say under 1.5 catches for Van Jefferson.
Dude, we all love, a leaderboard sweat in DFS, a fourth quarter comeback, all those sort of things. But let me tell you what, friends, there is nothing like sweating a Drew Sample under 1.5 catches. Last year, that was one that we took a lot. I don't think we're going to be getting the sampler lines this year, Kyle. Noah Fant going to Cincy. So I don't think we'll get Drew Sample on the books much this year. But yeah, those types of props are always very fun to take.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at some of the tools they're adding. You can get all of those in the DFS Pass. We'll talk more about our optimizer, and I was even getting to preview some stuff in the Discord of how I'm trying to take our process of how we recommend players, how we recommend projections, something that I used to just do all by myself, and now I am making sure that everybody gets to understand weighted opportunities. I am very excited to show people, because that's like a huge part of my process, and I just think it's really helpful for people to there's so many stats that you can look at each week for DFS. There's really only a couple that matters, and mostly it's opportunities and projected playing time. So we have all that. But Betz, anything you want to add before we jump in this quick question?
Yes, Kyle, how dare you, is what I have to say. Okay, it's August 1st. It's a very important day in this show's history, and also my personal life. Today is the 5-year anniversary for me and my wife, so shout out to my wife. She's the absolute best. But also, Kyle, this is our 5-year anniversary because our first episode together came out on my wedding day 5 years ago. Oh my goodness. We actually had somebody tell us they went back and listened to all the shows from before. Don't listen to that one. It was probably terrible. But 5 years, this show, you and me, has been going since August 1st of 2020. So congratulations, my friend.
Does Monica feel good that she always gets to like share that place in your heart with me?
Yeah, I told her this. We woke up this morning, all those things, and I said, "Hey, happy anniversary!" Also, just so you know, it's kind of a big day for me and Kyle. So if you could just stay out of the way, yeah, she understands. She gets it.
Okay. Wow, 5 years. 5 years of the pod. That's good stuff. Quick question I have for us is from Gobbler, who is from Discord. And it's, who are some of your favorite and most drafted nasty boys this year in best ball? And just to also give a pro tease here, next week on the Dynasty podcast, we are giving our nasty boys of the summer. So really giving some gross players, which in Dynasty, I'm looking for players that might not even make the roster. That's what I usually think of as a nasty boy. In best ball, we're mostly talking about guys that are hanging around pick 200 or later. And if you're playing in a large field tournament, I think scrolling down is something that we would recommend if you want to do, especially on DK. If you're, rounds 18, 19, 20, a lot of these guys you can differentiate yourself from the field. On Underdog, I feel like it's not as easy this year for me to pick out guys that are going, 215 or later that I'm like super jazzed about. So let's talk about some of the nasty boys this year that you've been taking, and some of them we talked about on the podcast, but like at quarterback, you have Jackson Dart, who, not to toot my own horn, we did open up the season, and I said, hey, Jackson Dart might be a player before the draft that I'm going to be taking, and he's still basically going in the same spot. I actually have been taking a lot of Anthony Richardson over the last 3 weeks, and that's trending well for me too.
Yeah, A-Rich is coming back up. He fell like, he sunk like a rock, basically, when the shoulder scare kind of happened, a month and a half ago or whatever. And he's reportedly been performing well in camp. Beats are saying the accuracy is coming back. And I think that's a little, I'm not saying I'm not buying it, but I'm not really acting on that. What I am acting on is like how the team is talking about him. And when you think about kind of what this boils down to, it's like, if you're the Colts, do you want to win 8 games with Daniel Jones and just be stuck in the middle? Or do you want to just find out?
Or do you want to win 8 games with Anthony Richardson?
Or do you want to maybe win 10 with Richardson, but also potentially win 2 with Richardson? and just find out if the 4th overall pick or whatever he was a couple years ago can actually be the guy. And if he's not, so be it, and you move on. And I think they're financially committed to making that happen. Now, even if he wins the job in week 1, the thing with me with Richardson that I'm still a little stuck on is like, if it is a train wreck by week 7, Daniel Jones is going to play, right? So we always preach like making sure these guys are playing late in the season. And people that took shots on Justin Fields last year felt this too, where I thought Fields was playing pretty decent at the time, but they still went to Russ. And, you didn't have your guy late in the season. But in this game, if you're playing for upside, you're playing to win, man, when Richardson is on the field, he is going to be a top 10 scoring fantasy quarterback, even if the real life product is not great. And there is a world that exists. I don't know how great the percentage is, but it exists where he keeps the job all year if he wins it. And then he looks like an unbelievable pick in best ball. So I am taking some of him, but I'm not like jamming him right now, if that makes sense.
If you think about the formats for each player and where they fit, like we talk all the time, like I can dislike a player in Dynasty, be okay with them in redraft, like them in best ball, be okay with them week 1 DFS. Like it's just like I can pick and choose. I feel like this format and where he's going as your 3rd quarterback, maybe your last pick, is perfect. Is perfect for what I'm asking. I'm not asking to finish in 6th place in my league. Yeah. And for a while, if nobody was drafting it, then there are certain leagues out there that are closed, and Anthony Richardson maybe was drafted in 30% of those leagues or whatever it is. And so that's the type of math and that's the type of thing that I'm shooting for with his rushing upside to be my QB3, where you can get by with 2 quarterbacks, but people are taking shots, talking about in this range of nasty boys, of wide receivers that are going to be dusty. Like some of the guys that you and I are going to bring up right here, it's like I'm projecting playing time, so I like them, but I know there's a long list of wide receivers that people have been taking here that are not going to see much playing time, if any, at all. So I think Anthony Richardson is a brilliant pick for this format and for week 1 DFS.
I know why you're taking him so much. It's because you auto-draft Tyler Warren, and so
Tyler Warren
looking for the backdoor stack. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, like you said, I've been taking some Jackson Dart. This is pretty much a DraftKings only thing for me, where it's like I get boxed out a quarterback, I need 3, and this is the exact opposite of Richardson, where the concern is like Dart is not starting week 1, but their schedule, like the schedule is unreal
I feel bad
to start.
For them.
I mean, what's the best case scenario? 3-7 for the Giants here? I mean, they're going to need to win with defense and just have some turnover luck or something. Absolutely brutal opening to the season. So I think Dart is starting in November and December. I mean, that's how I'm playing it. So more of a QB3 on DraftKings. I mean, you brought this up in our prospect shows, highest scramble rate of any quarterback in this class. So if I'm looking for just a little juice for cheap, basically, he makes a lot of sense. And then as well, if you do get boxed out in a stack, again, more of a DraftKings stake, but on a stack, Darius Slayton's kind of sitting there waiting for you if you want to tack on like a Theo Johnson as an emergency stack, that kind of thing. Obviously, they go in those rounds for a reason, but those are guys I've been drafting a little bit as well.
Yeah, at running back, we've talked a lot about some of these guys. Sean Tucker, I think you've heard enough from me that I think he's a really fun late dart throw. It wouldn't shock me if at one point he ends up being the RB2 on that team, knowing that they used to. Taj Brooks with the Bengals, we got some clarity with Zach Moss. He's not going to be in the league anymore. I think, nobody's going to pick him up. Will Shipley, you've kind of held on that about him over A.J. Dillon. And then it's sad. I'm sure people want to hear, but Marshawn Lloyd, apparently his body doesn't want him to play. He is mentally there. His body is not, and apparently you need both.
This is tough, man. Did you watch the Matt LaFleur?
Yes.
Presser?
Yeah.
He looked genuinely sad. Like he was like, man,
yeah.
I feel for the kid. Like, and apparently he was starting to really kind of show out a little bit in the first part of camp. But yeah, another injury here. It's a groin injury for Marshawn Lloyd. As of our recording, they haven't really announced like the severity. But for a player that kind of needs the reps, this is obviously not great. So, in round 20 on DraftKings, Manuel Wilson, I think, is a fine, low rostered guy that you could get to differentiate in tournaments. He was actually, some of his numbers actually were pretty good last year, Manuel Wilson. So yeah, we're monitoring the Lloyd injury. I have not taken him since the injury happened because I already have, unfortunately, far too much of him.
Is that my fault?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
But if it makes me feel better and to blame you, then yeah, this is your fault. So yeah, that's unfortunate, but we're monitoring that one. I will also mention for the Colts, DJ Giddens is kind of reportedly starting to really emerge as the kind of locked in RB2. They haven't said that. That has not been confirmed by anybody, but just beats are kind of saying he's been running as the second guy behind Jonathan Taylor. So Giddens had some nice stuff in his profile, like as far as his college stuff. So I like Giddens as well as a late round nasty boy pick.
Yeah, with some of these running backs, I'm just buying into the offense and buying into chaos. Like that's the whole reason with Sean Tucker. It's just like, okay, it's very near. And that was the reason with Lloyd. It wasn't I like Lloyd. It is I like the Packers. And if he is the RB2, this is too late for him to be going around pick, 195, 200. He'll obviously drop after that. At wide receiver, Whittington and Tutu have kind of been some of my favorite pairs to queue up late. And they've been battling for that wide receiver 3 job. Tutu got paid this offseason, so I think it's easier to side there. I think Whittington has been a McVay guy since they drafted him. It's kind of fit in those schemes. And he was the Puka replacement last year when Puka was hurt. So it's really hard to see his skill set being a guy that's just going to take away targets from Adams or Puka. But if either of them is hurt, I think he's a really good replacement. Tutu is, in best ball, you're going to get those a couple of spike games. So it's just kind of depending on what you are seeing. I think they're both pretty good last round picks.
Yeah, I was just pulling up exposures. I've got like 6% of each guy just kind of like sprinkled in on either a Stafford stack or, bring back another stack or something. I agree with you. I think Tutu, like, let's say Puka got hurt or Devontae got hurt. I think Tutu's role wouldn't really change that much because he would still probably operate as that kind of like deep threat Demarcus Robinson-esque of the past couple of years. But like Whittington has the chance to be a huge, oh my goodness, we didn't see him playing 80% of the snaps type of thing, and it kind of emerges late in the year if an injury happens. That's how I'm playing it anyway with those two guys, so I like that call quite a bit. For me, the Jaguars guys I think are interesting. De'Ami Brown is the easiest guy to click because of the contract, but I think Parker Washington, again, more of a DraftKings take in round 20 is also fine, just because you think about the Travis Hunter range of outcomes. If there are games where he's running more at corner or whatever, Parker Washington might slide in there in the slot a little bit more, but that's thin. I mean, that's like a dart throw type of situation. Darius Slayton, I mentioned, and then Noah Brown. I've actually been taking quite a bit of with Washington. More like you said, buying into the offense, but also buying into a player that's at least shown some flashes of being productive in the last couple of years.
Route, he's been kind of good.
Yeah. And like, what if Debo decline continues to happen, or there's an injury to him or Terry or something? So again, pretty much a DraftKings only take for me on Noah Brown, but those are the guys I've been taking late and obviously not feeling great about any of these players, but sprinkling them in when it makes sense.
I want to ask you about Tennessee because, if I take Ridley early, it's very easy to queue up Cam Ward. And recently he was quoted as saying their offense was, quote, mid right now. I just love his honesty. Just like,
I respect that.
We're just mid right now. But all the other wide receivers for the Titans can be your last round pick. If it's Lockett, it's either of their rookies, like you can go there and tell yourself a story that late in the season, they're the pick you need. I mean, let's be honest. We could say that about anybody. The pick you need is obviously Taj Brooks or Noah Brown or Darius Slayton. There's a reason why we're picking these guys. But are you taking stabs at any of the Tennessee wide receivers if you had Ward?
I am, yeah. And it's tough to say which one is right. Like for week 1 projection, Tyler Lockett's going to look the best probably. But, Tyler Lockett showed obvious decline last year, and I would be surprised if that bounces back with a rookie quarterback and all those things. So I prefer to take shots on the rookies with Ayamanor and DK and just kind of throw your hands up and say, I don't know, but let's mix them in and see what happens. But yes, I have been taking them again, just small exposures here. But when you take Ward, if you have Ridley and you don't take one of the running backs, unless you're taking Chig, like who are you double stacking with, right? So you might as well attack a second guy on.
All right, at tight end, it's the Johnson bros, it's Theo, and it's Juwan, who also has a groin injury, but it is, quote, not serious. So it's just an unserious groin.
Completely unserious. Come on, Juwan. I hope that's accurate. Soft tissue injuries being described as unserious generally does not make me feel good as a PT because sometimes that is a lie, but hopefully Juwan is okay. We also, I mean, it's not a huge deal, but dodged a little bullet with Noah Fant going to the Bengals. There was reports that he could sign with the Saints. So Juwan's role looks safe. he's going insanely late for a player who's getting paid a lot of money.
Right.
And I'm worried about the quarterback play just like you guys are, but Kellen Moore offense, they're going to play fast. They're probably going to lose a lot of games. Like, there should be some volume here. So, Juwan Johnson, what could go wrong?
He's in my top 5 tight end exposures. And I feel like looking at our Discord, everyone's pretty much in step of like, man, if I have a 3 tight end build, why am I not queuing up this guy? And we have him a little bit ahead in our rankings, so people are getting him a ton. I'm just going to say it, like, could be a league winner. People are saying.
Are they?
I don't know. I'm just always excited to click him. Like, I'm always like, man, why is Juwan Johnson going this late?
What's bad about that is, like, if you think that, and
Yes,
I think
I
that, and everybody else thinks that, but he's still available in round 18 or 19 every time, it's probably not a great sign.
Let's just say I have a lot of Mason Taylor late because of projected playing time. He's
what about
another
JT
player.
Sanders?
God, you like him.
I think he's fine. I mean, it's more just like betting on a Bryce Young, I don't even want to say bounce back, but like take another step this year. And he doesn't go drafted in every draft, right? It's one of those differentiators too. If you're stuck at tight end and need tight end 3, I think he's all right. Yeah,
it's just weird that you would want their tight end 2 behind Tommy Trimble.
Dude, he had back surgery.
Dude, don't mess with Tommy High T.
He's not even in practice right now, brother.
Dude, he's a Georgia boy, so maybe that's why I'm sticking up for him. I just haven't been taking those tight ends very much. But maybe I should tack him on late. I mean, at the end of the day, this is nasty. That's all we're going for. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll jump in the mailbag.
Mailbag.
If you would like to get your questions answered best, I want to recommend our Discord channel, ballersdiscord.com. We have channels for DFS, for props, for best ball. A lot of people, they go to the website, fantasyfootballers.com, and they submit a question. You can do that. I'm just going to let you know that there are a lot of those. And there's a whole channel that I see every single week of just people saying, here's all the details about my league. It's just really hard for those to be answered on every single mailbag show, despite all the different podcasts we do. So on Discord, I promise you will have a much better experience if you want to do that. You can also subscribe to Betz' private Patreon channel that only has all the Gold Star locks. It's only like, what, $59.99 a week?
Yep. I mean, that's the best price you could pay for right there. Includes
They have
everything
to call
you
in,
need.
right?
You'll get my personal number, call in, ask your question, we'll get it answered.
The hotline.
No matter any time of the day. 2 a.m., wake me up.
There's probably somebody out there that their uncle like still does that.
The hotline?
Calls the hotline for the betting tips.
Is that even a thing?
That was a thing for a long time.
Oh my goodness.
I know, it's sad. All right, first question. I'm going to draw these from Discord because these people are incredible. DM310, what has been your favorite draft slot so far in best ball this summer?
So this one's tough because I feel like the first round is incredibly strong this year. But the second round sometimes gets a little, you can poke holes into players in the second round. So I actually have found myself really enjoying like picks 9 to 12 because early in the second round, you get a player that I think in some seasons could be a first round pick. So I think there's like 14, 15 guys that are worth a first round pick this year. So you kind of get 2 of them if you're in that draft slot. But obviously, if I'm early in the draft, like I'm very excited to click CeeDee Lamb or Bijan or any of those guys. So I'll say back half of the first round, but I feel like I've actually had a pretty decent exposure to all the spots this summer.
Yeah, the back half I felt like was really kind to me in June when CMC was a player that I just had ranked ahead where I could get him at the back of the first round. And now it's like, okay, well, that's not happening anymore. Also with Achane, I feel like there was a point where he was a mid-second round pick, so you could get either of those as your RB1 and feel confident that you're getting the pass-catching upside that I think you need, or you just go wide receiver. So that kind of, corner over there, 9 through 12, I felt pretty confident earlier. My favorite part was just if I'm at 3 or 4, I just love getting CeeDee. I think CeeDee is one of my favorite players this year that I'm overweight the field. and I had been taking him ahead of Jefferson, and right now that's looking better with ADP. But then I just have a ton of Dak. You talked about him as a league winner. I have, Pickens mixing in the Dallas running backs. Like I have Javonte, I have Sanders, I have Blue. Like I'm just team stacking the Cowboys. And what was it the other day that they had like a massive fight as a team?
Oh yeah, the boys. They were brawling in practice. Schottenheimer didn't like that. Said, "You get on the line, we're sprinting." The way football was meant to be played in 1999. You fight, you run. And I messaged that to Kyle, like jokingly, was like, "There's no way this fails." Like players hate playing for coaches that are like super hard nosed and punish you with running and stuff like that. But I thought that was funny. Reportedly, everything out of Cowboys camp, now everything's great this time of year for everybody, but the vibes have been good based off of what I've been reading in The Athletic and ESPN. I guess Schottenheimer's kind of bringing more of like a energetic approach to it and letting the players like play music and stuff like that, which I guess McCarthy wasn't a huge fan of. So I think currently vibes are high in Dallas. How long does that last? Who knows? But yeah, man, I'm with you. I think CD is such a strong pick this year. Like he's my most drafted player in round 1. I purposely am trying to get a ton of CD Lamb this year. Not that I don't like the other guys, but I just think this offense, it's going to be basically 3 players, right? Like Dak, CD, Pickens. The target share should be so condensed. A little bit of Ferg, and then we'll figure out the running back, but these target shares should be insane for CD and Pickens.
I was thinking about the Cowboys when you were talking from like an employer standpoint, and it was like this year they're letting us play music while we work. It's like changing the culture of the workplace and the way that things like. I do this all the time in our company Slack. Whenever like somebody doesn't report to camp or like is in a contract holdout, I just like relate it like, okay, breaking news, somebody's not showing up to work again. Like it's half joking, but also like comparing it to all the rest of us that have jobs. It's like, imagine me like going to Andy, Mike, and Jason, be like, not showing up right now.
What a flex. You should try that.
In August. That's when I definitely should do it.
1 week out before the season. Look, you want this show to continue? Pay me.
Yeah. And by pay me, like, give me the DK crowns. I'll take it. I'll just flood my account.
Those are worth gold, man.
They're like, hey, so we can't do a salary bump, but instead, what if I could give you some DK crowns
and a t-shirt?
A t-shirt. I'm like, I'm in. I love that kind of stuff.
Where do I sign?
Next one's for legendary Jake, who's actually one of our mods. He says, what is one DFS moment that you look back on and remember fondly? Mine was a third place $1,400 win in a weekly DFS tournament that was a quarter entry. So those are really fun. And also, those are like the hardest tournaments to win. The little, jukebox, what are they called? The quarter entry. Like those are really, really hard.
Yeah, that's, literally a quarter into $1,400. That sounds pretty sweet. Yeah, this one I've talked about on the show a lot. It's the Gabe Davis 4-touchdown game in the playoffs against Kansas City was insane. And then I feel like topping it, though, quite honestly, is just a few months ago. My Eagles come out and crush the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So I'm already on a high of that. I've already like mentally checked out of anything DFS related. Like I had a pretty good showdown slate, but nothing that was like meaningful. And then I watched garbage time, the touchdown to Xavier Worthy from Mahomes. And all of a sudden I refresh and look at my phone. And I'm like, I'm in first place. What just happened? Vaulted all the way up to first in showdown. So ship that. And then the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Pretty unbelievable night.
It's hard to do both at the same time. That's what's crazier about that is like, it's not like you were like hanging on for a win. You're going back and forth. It was really stressful. It's like you knew that they were just crushing, just obliterating them. There's no way that you're going to, 28-3 this thing. Like you knew you were going to win.
Yeah.
And then to have Worthy do what he did, that was a pretty wild night.
That was incredible. So those are like personal moments. But for us, Kyle, one of my favorite moments like that we had as far as a recommendation on the show and the DFS pass, people playing in Discord, Mac Daddy Hollins. Who could forget November 2022? What a season that was. He was with the Raiders at the time. Josh McDaniels, I believe, in town there. We played him in cash. He was like, 3,300 or something ridiculous. And we were getting crushed in cash. But he was everybody said, of course, you need Mac Hollins, the late afternoon hammer to save you. He had an incredible drive in the fourth quarter. ends with a touchdown, and all of a sudden we're cashing. So I remember sweating back and forth. Like, the only people that cared about Mac Hollins in that game were probably his family and us at that point in time. But I'll always remember that in November.
That's what's so fun about DFS. There's so many different formats and they all have their pros and cons. But with DFS, you get to root for players that maybe you normally wouldn't because of the salary structure. And then everybody else is kind of together in this moment. And you can also laugh about it too. Like, yes, we want to win money. Yes, this is serious. And also, this is hilarious that Mac Hollins saved us. Like, just literally, like, the transfer of wealth that this man gave us, despite everything that is Mac Hollins. Dude doesn't wear shoes, thinks soup is for losers.
I agree with that, by the way. Not a big soup guy.
Really? More of a... Yeah, okay.
I mean, like, chili, like chunkier soups, I'm good with.
What about stews?
I like stew. But like a tomato soup or like a, pea soup or something that's just like liquid, like I want to eat. I don't want to drink something.
What about like a tomato bisque?
No.
Mm-mm. Okay. You're tomato basil?
No.
You don't like tomato soup. Okay. It's fine. I'll throw out mine because mine's actually a 4-touchdown game as well. It's wild that's our two best ones. But whatever Chase Claypool's rookie year was against the Eagles, correct?
Correct.
He had the 4-touchdown game, and that was a dart throw that I wish I could say, like, here's my really, really great process of how I landed on Chase Claypool when he scored 4 touchdowns in a game. I just happened to recommend him that week as a dart throw, so it was really fun for the show because as a rookie, we didn't expect that. I won a tournament early on with Cardinals wide receiver, beanpole, weighs 140 pounds, JJ Nelson. That was a really cool feeling when I was first off in DFS. I've shared that story before, but then I'll throw out one more. A couple years ago, I believe it was against the Eagles as well. Man, all my good memories are against the Eagles. By the way, do you know that the Falcons beat the Eagles in week 2?
I was at a very low point when that happened for this team. This team is so unserious. Kirk Cousins off an Achilles.
Watching the quarterback series on Netflix back, I was like, there's no reason we should have won that game. And for just a moment, you go, we got Kirk. We got Kirk, man. This guy knows what he's doing. Anyway, Sam Howell and a Jahan Dotson stack did really well for me in a tournament. And I am sweating it out because not many people wanted to play Dotson at all, which I get it. But I'm in a Wendy's with my family. And and I don't know why I was there at just this exact time. But I am just sweating this out and I am not mentally there. But the whole time I'm just like, my life depends on Sam Howell.
Man, do you remember what you had to eat that day?
No, I probably didn't eat. I probably couldn't eat.
Just throwing up everywhere. Super nervous. Oh man, that's hilarious. Like, sir, your Frosty is ready? Not now, okay? I'm in the middle of something over here.
The next one is from The Dude Abides. Rank these in terms of importance for best ball. Player takes, ADP values, stacking a quarterback with one pass catcher, stacking multiple teammates and buying in at a team level, and week 17 correlation. So obviously, the way that we play, all of these can matter. You don't have to pick one or the other. But in terms of importance, how are you thinking about it?
Yeah, I think we both agree that the team stack component of this is the first thing we should be thinking about. When you're drafting teams, you're basically just making bets on the teams that you're drafting, telling a story that this is going to work out. And if the offense rolls, there's probably going to be 3 to 5 pieces, maybe depending on the team, more or less, but like roughly that number that are going to hit their ADP and produce an outlier outcome. So I think team stacks is the first thing that I would say. Then I'll say ADP values is my second one because there's been a lot of data showing both real-time ADP, meaning like in the draft you're in, when you get good value on a player, is beneficial for your advance rate, but also closing line value from the entire tournament standpoint. So, Best Ball Mania, DraftKings Millie, these tournaments that have been open since May, there's people out there that have insane closing line value on, certain players like Mecca Egbuka is flying up boards right now. Like your teams with Egbuka in the 10th round or something are going to be way stronger than teams that have Egbuka in the 6th round, which he could get there tomorrow. It feels like basically. So ADP values massively important. use the power of the market. It's really important. And then I put stacking with one pass catcher next, but I don't really ever try to just do that. So that was kind of a cop-out answer. Then I had player takes. Then I had week 17. Not that week 17 isn't important, but you also need to do everything and check everything off the list to get to week 17, which I think is kind of a tough discussion because it is so important to, maximize your team's chances of hitting first place if you get there. But that's the part, right? Like you have to get there. So I think using week 17 as like a tiebreaker when you're on the clock between two players and it makes sense with your team is totally fine. But I'm not going into every draft and the second I take Justin Jefferson, I'm not like, okay, I need a Lion right away. Like I'm not like thinking about that right away. But you should definitely be stacking for week 17. But don't forget too, week 16, week 15 stacks, also very helpful. Again, trying to just maximize your chances of even reaching week 17 for those things to matter. So that's my list. I don't know if you differ, Kyle, or where you're at there.
I had a team recently where I was looking later on between a couple players, and I was looking at week 17 and week 16, and a lot of the week 17 correlations from my team I felt would have been forced and everything else, and I realized that I had a bunch of week 15 and week 16 stacks with this team. Like I'm looking at the Chargers, who I look at every day anyways, but week 15 they play at Kansas City, week 16 at Dallas. And I'm like, man, that week 16 game at Dallas might be the one that is more important than their week 17 because I need to be able to get there. And so I already had the stack there, the game stack of the Dallas one. So I agree with you mostly with this take. Team level stuff is what you and I talk about the most. ADP values, we're in lockstep there. I put player takes 3 just because, if you just pick the right players, you win anyways. So
Super
that's part
easy.
of it.
Just do that.
And then the reason why I put stacking quarterback with one pass catcher last is because I know everybody else is doing it already. So, it's kind of arbitrary picking between these last couple ones, but I know everybody is trying to gain a stack in my room. It's very obvious. And if anything, I know that there's 2 to 3 people in my room that are reaching on their stacks. And that's actually, not an advantage. A disadvantage? That's what I was going for.
There you go.
All right. Next one. This is a fun one. What is the best cereal and why?
I have a really lame take on this.
Oh, no.
I'm not a cereal guy.
Get out. Get out.
Get out right now. I mean, as a kid, I loved Fruity Pebbles.
Okay, that's
Frosted
what I wanted to
Flakes,
hear.
all those things. But I'm not a cereal guy now. If I'm going to eat like something that's like cereal for breakfast, like I mostly just make oatmeal instead. But I'm not a cereal guy.
What do you eat? Like flaxseed? Just straight oats? Just
Oats, flaxseed, and chia seeds straight to the dome. Nothing else in there.
no water in it. Just
yeah, exactly. Exactly. No, but if you're making like oatmeal, put some peanut butter in there, some cinnamon, honey.
But you liked Fruity Pebbles as a kid?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so right now, my kids like Fruity Pebbles. We don't get it that often. But the other day, I asked Truman to start making a list of some things we needed. Like it was like butter and like, milk, just like the common stuff. And I saw that he wrote on there Fruity Pebbles without even telling me. It's like, no, this is what we need, Dad. Fruity Pebbles. So the list literally just says like butter, milk, Fruity Pebbles.
Just get me essentials.
All right. I'm going to probably say one that's not on people's radar, but it will always have a special place in my heart. And for a season in college, I would eat 2 boxes of this every single week, no matter what. And I have pictures to prove it because I saved all the boxes and made it into a costume one year.
Wow.
Yeah. College was kind to me. Golden Grams.
Oh, that's a good shout out.
Golden Grams, if they're looking to sponsor a spot on a DFS and betting podcast, I feel like I can speak from experience that for a period of my life, for 2 years, I think I ate more Golden Grams than anybody in the continental U.S.
Those were good. I totally forgot that they even existed. Are they even still around?
They're around. They're,
okay.
And every once in a while, we lock eyes in the grocery aisle, and I'm like, remember that little fling we had for 2 years?
I mean, 2 years, I'd call that more than a fling, buddy. That's a lot of Golden Grams.
And it's not like one of those things like, oh, I just ate it. Like me and my roommates, sometimes we just have cereal at night, but all of my friends understood that I loved Golden Grams. Like they would just buy me boxes sometimes. Gifts.
What a gift. Yeah, but if anybody, out there from Golden Grams
General Mills
wants to sponsor a segment, Golden Grams Gold Lock of the Week, something like that, we could talk.
We definitely could talk. All right, next one's from Penguin. And I feel like we've talked about this one a couple different times, but we need to bring it back up. He's asked, what are you doing about the Cleveland backfield? How likely is Judkins to miss time? And at what point does Judkins missing camp become a serious problem starting in week 1 and potentially losing the backfield? If you want to find all of our projections, the Ultimate Draft Kit, like I pulled up my app and I see what Andy, Mike, and Jason have in their projections. So their consensus projections for Judkins is 133 rush attempts, 573 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns on the ground, and 18 targets. It's one of those things where I just look at that stat line. If I take out the player and I look at that stat and I go, I feel like I could find those stats later than pick 108.
Yeah. He hasn't fallen far enough for me to even think about taking him. This looks like it's going to get nasty. Like, we still have no idea. He hasn't signed his contract. Thank you. He hasn't signed his contracts. We don't know when he'll be with the team. And then it's like, okay, is he learning the system? Do they trust him? What kind of shape is he in? How many games is he out? Like, there's so many factors. It feels like you have to hit like an 8-leg parlay for this to work. At some point, I would draft him. I don't know where that is.
2026.
Maybe. Or, 160s?
No, I said the year 2026 is when you can draft him.
No, I know, but I'm saying this year, if he falls far enough, it's like, I'll take a shot. But the situation in and of itself isn't good anyway, right? Like, there's not a ton of touchdown upside here, presumably. The offensive line also, in consensus projections I use from offensive line evaluators, they're like kind of consensus like 23rd, 24th in the league. It's not ideal quarterback play, So I'm letting other people still take him around where his ADP is. It will continue to fall. We differ on the other guys. I am throwing darts on Sampson and Ford because they have projectable roles that you could use in best ball, and we don't have to figure out when those weeks are going to come. Like, these guys in managed leagues, are you ever going to be excited to start Jerome Ford? Of course not. But randomly he rips off a 50-yard screen or something like that, and he's hitting your lineup. Like, weird stuff happens in the NFL. These guys are going to get touches. So I am taking both Sampson and Ford. I will probably plan to be around like 8 to 10-ish% both and not go crazy. Like, I'm not banking my season on these guys, obviously, but they're only going to go up. And we talked about how important closing line value is. So I will get some shares right now.
I was fine a while back. Like, Dylan Sampson right now is going at pick 143. I think there's just a lot of projection for a 4th-round player from an offense in college. If you don't know, college scouting in Tennessee, it's very different running through those lanes. And yeah, my issue is just I think this team's going to be bad, and running games we don't usually want to buy in. And there's other running backs here that I'd rather buy in. I will say on the Dynasty podcast, if you want to listen to that, we talked about this with Mike, the whole situation, what to do. And the best way I can explain it is that I was reprimanded. I was vocally spanked by Mike saying, "Hey, Kyle, whoa.
Kyle almost got fired."
Yeah.
It was, things got heated.
He basically said, "Hey, you remember Joe Flacco on this team?" I go, "Yeah, I remember Joe Flacco on this team." He's like, "Well, here's what he did." So when your boss puts you in your place, what you have to do is report that to HR. The problem with our company is that Mike is HR. So he said he just threw my complaint in the trash.
And all the emails bounce when you send them. So
he doesn't even look at memos anymore.
You got to fax it.
Yeah, I probably need to do that. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll answer arguably the most important question of 2025. This question is from Saints to Death, probably, one of the more well-known people on our Discord. And he asked a question about some guy named, let me make sure I'm reading this correctly, Kyle Pitts. He says, Kyle Pitts has never finished lower than tight end 15 in a full season. He's being drafted as the tight end 17 and will fall lower in some drafts. In the year 2025, is Kyle Pitts a good pick in best ball? And just to give you context with Kyle Pitts right now, he's going tight end 17, 150th overall.
Buttlicker, our prices have never been lower.
So, I'm going to phrase this question this way, and you can talk, and then I'll give you some math bets. But I think the best way to approach this, because of all players in fantasy football, he is the one that is most tangled in the web of emotions and what could be and training camp hype. Like there's nobody like Kyle Pitts. They will do psychological studies in the future and say that there is a generation of people that ruined their families because of this man. And yet, the question I have is, what does he have to do to pay off at his price? If we removed his name, Kyle Pitts, and just said tight end going at tight end 17, what does he have to do? That's really the best way to answer this question.
It's funny you mentioned the emotional damage. I can't get the image of Andy from the main show when he had the sad music playing, the lights are dim, he just looks right into the camera. He's just like a broken man. I can't do it anymore. We've all felt that at some point in this man's NFL career. I think he's a pretty good pick. And I hate that I'm saying that because
you hate yourself. You hate yourself right now.
I hate it, man. Because when you think about where he's been priced before, obviously this is hindsight analysis, but he was incredibly overpriced, right? Where he goes now, like you said, what does he have to do? Can this player give me somewhere in the range of 600 to, if we're dreaming here, 800 yards and 6-ish touchdowns? Is that possible? Yeah, very possible. And I just need those weeks to happen at the right time. I can't predict them, obviously, right now in August and all those things. But if Michael Penix is a downfield thrower and he's good and he has an outlier touchdown year and one of London or Mooney misses time or something, like chaos happens. And right now he's going in a range where it's like you're comparing him to, like Brenton Strange and guys like that. It's like they seem like the same bet to me. I don't know. Let's just stack them on if you're stacking. So if you got a Rams team going and you need some Week 17 correlation, fine with it. If you got Penix, fine with it. I'm not going out of my way to depend on Kyle Pitts, but I've heard other people say I'm not doing it this year. And in redraft leagues, I agree, because what's the point? In best ball, if you have a 3 tight end build, he's going to hit your lineup, a handful of times this year. Let's hope it's at the right weeks. But yeah, I've taken some Kyle Pitts and I'm, ashamed to admit that.
The price is wildly different. Like as a rookie, 46 overall is just laughable. And we go back and we say that was the good year. He had a 13% advance rate. The next year, he went 30th overall.
That is crazy.
And then
30th overall.
Yep. And then 10% advance rate. 2023, 71st, 13%. Last year, 62nd, 11%. Like he hasn't hit 15% advance rate. For a good tight end, a league winner, you need 20%. So that was really that's where I started. I said, what would it look like for Kyle Pitts to have a 20% advance rate? What do you need? And kind of going back that way. I did find that historically over the last 4 years, so during what we call the Kyle Pitts era, the tight ends taken between picks 100 and 145, only 4 of them have hit this 20% advance rate. But if you go to the next little bit, through 145 to 170, which is where he's going, there have been 9 tight ends. Like you can call it the tight end corridor of glory. There's been some good ones in this spot bet. So historically, it's a good spot. And these are the stats that I need. Do you think he can hit 70 receptions?
I would say if I'm betting one side of it, I'd take the under, but I think it's possible.
Yeah, like he's one of the few tight ends that you can see a route where he becomes that guy. Only 5 tight ends accomplished that last year, by the way. Do you think he can hit 5 receiving touchdowns?
I do think he can do that.
Okay. Only 12 tight ends accomplished that this last year, and 2 of them were named Noah Gray and Foster Moreau. So I think it's possible, but the point that you emphasized is that he could be the piece you need in the playoffs. I mean, Week 15 at Tampa Bay, Week 16 at Arizona, Week 17, that final Monday night game in the Dome, Mercedes-Benz against the Ram, that place is going to be rocking.
Oh, I would not want to be a Rams player in that week. Are you kidding me? Fake an injury in Week 16 so you don't have to go there. I can't wait for somebody in some contest to need Kyle Pitts in that game, in the final game of Week 17 championships for best ball, and he comes out for, a classic 2 for 20, no touchdown performance. It's going to be great. But yeah, it's possible. Yeah, the bottom line is just the price, right? It's like there's players that fail at every point in the draft along the way from 1 to 200, but you're not asking him to do much of anything at this price. So if you need tight end in this range, I'm totally fine with it. And just for context, in the UDK, we have right now for him 54 catches, over 600 yards, and 5 touchdowns is kind of a median expectation. What if that's 708 touchdowns? Like, you'd probably be decently happy with Kyle Pitts as a tight end 3 or a tight end 2. So what is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results? I've taken some Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, if you want to take him 30th overall bets, like you could totally do that just to like feel the vibes of what you felt a couple years ago. But 150th overall is the 5th Falcons player off the board. So when you look at certain offenses and where certain players go, with Mooney hurt right now, his ADP is probably going to move up a little bit. Pitts is, but I think it's still at a spot where you can take, Bijan or London, get Penix, and then bring, Pitts as kind of that late guy as well. And then we've been taking Algier. I think that's totally fine. I personally have not been taking a lot of Ray. You could take him on DK if you want to, but
Ray on DK.
Ray on DK. Don't take Cordero Hodge or I guess you could take DJ Chark in like your last round pick.
Dude, it's crazy how thin their wide receiver room is for a team that's going to play 3 wide receiver sets.
Well, I know you don't watch every game, but it's been like that for years, sadly. Just
what a
thin.
What a franchise, huh?
They are, I feel like we need to like change our motto. It's just like creating disappointment since, whenever. All right, IGW asked this: in best ball, since all the combinations of Chase, Higgins, Brown, and Burrow stack are crazy popular and easy to get, is it even worth taking this year, and the best way to get different? This is a very different conversation between a large field tournament and just a sit and go 12-man league. In a 12-man league, I don't care about the combinations. I don't care that they're popular because obviously you don't care. Throw that out the door. But in like best ball mania, let's use that one because that's the largest field we got. Is there a way to leverage this where you say, hey, at this point, I know this is going to be popular. I know that between Chase, 40% of Chase lineups are going to have Burrow, or 30% of Higgins lineups are going to have Burrow, or Chase, Burrow, and Brown ends up being 33% of those lineups. Is that too much for you?
I think it is because of the cost associated with the stack. We all are drawing the lines of last year's defense was terrible, so therefore they had to throw more and they were pushed, and they were, don't get me wrong. And we're doing the same thing this year for obvious reasons, because on paper it does look like the Bengals defense will be terrible again. And they don't really have a ton of depth behind their big 3 of Higgins, Chase, and Chase Brown looks insanely secure as far as his workload. So the projections look awesome and they're going to fit really well in rankings and all those things. But we have to remember, there was a point last summer where Joe Burrow was going in the 80s. So yes, Jamar Chase was a first round pick and T. Higgins was kind of that 2-3 turn-ish type spot. But tacking on Joe Burrow at that point was way cheaper. So I am not Xing out these stacks, but for me, I don't want to just follow the entire crowd and say, okay, 101 Jamar Chase. At the 2-3 turn, T. Higgins. At my next turn, Joe Burrow. And somewhere in there, Marv or Trey McBride, because that's just what everyone is doing. And because of that, and it feels comfy and it fits on the board, it's going to take an injury or something crazy for that ADP landscape to change in the next 4 weeks. I think that's just going to be where those guys go until week 1 kicks off. So I haven't taken that stack very much. We've talked about this on previous shows, where it's not that I don't want Bengals, I obviously do, but I want them in a unique way. So maybe it's, Jamar Chase and Chase Brown, but no Joe Burrow, or, T. Higgins and Chase Brown and something like that, or tack on, Gesicki late, or I guess now you could tack on Noah Fant late, or something different, Taj Brooks. But that specific stack that this question is referencing, I think is going to be insanely popular this year.
Yeah, I think in large field, I've been way underweight this. I think Burrow's definitely one of the players early on I took a stance against, that he's just not showing up on a ton of my teams. If I have the 101, I'll take Chase, and I'm just going to get different in a couple other places. Could it bite me in the butt? Sure. But I know I'd rather leverage what I know the field is going to do. I'm throwing out the number a third of the field, or 40%, because we know that last year Chase and Burrow stacks were very, very common. And it was a good thing, but the price was different. That was the point you were bringing up. Chase was not the 101. Chase was the 103, 104, somewhere around there. and Burrow was going in the 80s. So it's just a cost thing for me. Chase Brown is really hard for me. I think I have a mental block because all of my projections are telling me that he's going to crush this year and just absolutely obliterate it. And yet there's something about the workload that he got down the stretch that is hard for me to hold on and say that is the exact workload. I'm not projecting it to anyone else. It's more of like, how is this man's body going to hold up? And I've been holding that against him. So I'll take him, if he falls past ADP, but he's not. He keeps rising.
Yeah, he's on the rise for sure. And best ball is kind of funny because sometimes players will adjust in ADP even though there's like already known information. Like, Zach Moss got cut. But for the last 3 weeks, there's been rumblings of like Zach Moss might not even make this team.
We weren't worried about him.
No, not at all. But naturally, you see it and you feel more comfortable. So you're like, okay, I'll take him a couple spots earlier. And that gets repeated over several drafts. And all of a sudden, he's up 5 spots. Same thing with like, Rashee Rice. Like, we all know the suspension is coming. But like the day it's announced, I feel like more people are going to be like, there it is. He's going to drop. Or Jordan Addison. We know it's coming. But when it actually gets announced is when you kind of extra adjust and double count. So yeah, like I thought Chase Brown when he was like a mid 3rd round pick was an awesome selection after the NFL draft and we got clarity. Now that he's at the 2-3 turn, and I truthfully would not be surprised if he sneaks into round 2 on a regular basis. That is, I see it, I get it. It's just tough, man, to think about how this player was viewed a year ago versus now. But the Bengals are saying all the right things, man. And the depth chart is not scary. So I feel conflicted for sure on him.
Yeah, I can't speak negatively about his projected role and projected volume. In DFS, he's going to be a player we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
I think the cost is just at an all-time high right now. Next one is from JerBear1392. When drafting in best ball, is it better to take a value pick, say a player who's fallen 10 or more picks in ADP, or a week 17 correlation pick in the middle rounds? Does the strategy change in the later rounds? So we often say it's not this versus that, because when you play this out and you take a portfolio approach, you're drafting so many times that you can't just look back and say, like, do I do this every single time in all my drafts, or do I do this other thing? So we're not trying to make binary decisions. I will say, when you get value, when a player drops, you get really cool, unique combinations where you go, man, I've never had a team that had, or I've never seen in a draft somebody have this player that dropped in ADP. Like I had Jordan Love drop in a draft 21 picks past ADP. I was like, I did not see this coming at all. And so I had a unique Packers stack that I don't think anybody else usually gets access to. So I think for me, the value picks are fun because they're rare.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think ADP value is really important for advance rate. Data has shown that across several years of Best Ball Mania research. And at the same time, like you said, I also think it's an opportunity to take players that sometimes you don't normally select. Like right now, one guy for me that I'm really stuck on is Marv. And like, I see the path, like incredible prospects, insane draft capital, all those things that we said last year. But, you didn't see a lot on the field from like a scheme perspective and Kyler and all those things to give you a ton of confidence that he's like a home run pick in the 3rd round. But if he falls like 7 or 8 spots past ADP, I view that as an opportunity to say, look, I'll get some exposure and I'll get it at a unique price. And like you said, maybe that opens up a unique combo with the player in the next round or something like that. So yeah, I'm with you. I think if I'm picking between one of these two options, the week 17 versus ADP value, I'm taking the ADP value for those reasons.
All right, this one's from Legal by Siegel, who has also been a long-time Discord member. I know that there's advice not to reach too much on ADP for stacks, but I assume that this advice matters less later in drafts. Is there some historical data? And how much is it okay to reach an ADP in the teen rounds as opposed to the single-digit rounds? I think I would totally agree. Reaching earlier has more consequences than reaching later. I do see people make the decisions where they're like, hey, I took Brian Thomas Jr. Early, so I reach 30 picks on Trevor Lawrence to take him because I'm on this side of the board and I'm scared somebody else is going to take him. That's, I think, not a good thing. Like reaching more than 15 later on is really, really bad. I think if you're at 10 picks or so, 12 picks, like it's totally fine as the ADP increases. And especially with a lot of these quarterbacks that we have talked about all year, the Dak, Justin Herbert, Drake May, Jordan Love, JJ McCarthy, I think it's fine if you're reaching, 10 or so picks. But at the end of the day, like, it's still not advantageous.
For sure, and it changes the conversation completely if you're in round 16 versus round 3. So the later you are in your draft, I think a good analogy that people use with this is like if you've ever done an auction draft. I've heard Eric, who was on our show last week from Spike Week, talk about this, other players as well. These are all like $1 auction players after you get past round 16, if you've ever done that. So the difference between a player that goes around 16 versus round 18 that sometimes gets undrafted is really not different at all, in my opinion. So if it completes a stack that you like, if it completes a game stack for week 17 or 16 that you like, I'm not going to not take them in round 16 because, I think it's a reach compared to round 17. Like I'm taking that player. So don't be afraid to do that later on. I highly advise against it anywhere in the top 100 picks, I would say. And I agree with Kyle. Anything more than a 10 spot reach has shown to be detrimental to your advance rate.
All right, I got a couple more here. Do really bad defenses actually increase opportunities for spike weeks from their offenses and therefore make them better targets in best ball? Miami's injuries prompted this question. So if you think Miami's secondary is going to be bad or their defense is going to be bad, does that mean we should buy in? I'll first throw out that there are so many factors for every single choice that you make and every single statistic and everything else. It's really hard to just reduce everything to, well, if the defense is bad, does that mean the offense is there are certain things where there are more opportunities. So when Betz and I talk about projectable plays and everything else in season, we talk about pace of play. Yeah, if a defense is really bad, then it does cause the offense to have to play catch up. Like the Buccaneers were a great example that you could throw on them at will, and you're seeing a ton of attempts. Same thing with the Vikings. The Vikings defense was good, but opposing offenses had to just throw at a crazy high clip against them. And therefore, that did offer some more environments where there was some shootouts, but it's really kind of a hit or miss. If you look at which teams gave up the highest fantasy points per drop back last year, it's the Panthers, the Jaguars, the Giants. You're oh, okay, well, so those defenses are bad. Should I target their offense? Well, you still have to answer the question, what if the offense is just bad? What if the Giants can't move the ball all year or the Panthers couldn't for half the year? It doesn't always correlate, but sometimes the examples I gave was good for Baker and was really good for Sam Darnold last year.
For sure. And I think the point that you made there is so important. Bad defense does not mean good offense. Bad defense with good offense means that good offense has a chance to go off. And you saw it last year with some of the best offenses in the league that even if they had a good defense, they'd still be very, very good. But because their defenses were terrible, those already good offenses had to be incredible. And you saw that with the Lions, their defensive injuries, they got pushed like crazy. They had to just win by scoring. Detroit went bonkers. The Bucs are a good example. Washington, good example there. The Bengals, obviously a good example there from last year. So I think inherently, yes, it does improve the increased chances of getting spike weeks from an offense. But if the offense is already bad, it's not going to change, is kind of the point. It needs to already be a above average offense for them to be pushed and for it to matter, is kind of how I'm taking this question. So, even if there's a horrible defense this year, if the offense just sucks, they're probably just going to suck. It doesn't matter as much, right?
Yeah, so the Browns, I know I've talked about them a couple of different times, but they were bottom 5 in the league in terms of points allowed last year. Their defense wasn't great. It's probably going to be a little bit more improved this year. They didn't create a lot of turnovers. They're just not a good defense at all. And the offense actually had a lot of opportunity. They had the most pass attempts lead, 661, with the league high 23 INTs. Thanks, Jameis. So it's sounds really good, and we got some Jerry Jeudy goodness. We had a little bit of Tillman, but other than Jeudy and some Njoku, really wasn't a great offense to want to buy into, despite the fact the defense was bad, and despite they had a lot of opportunities. This stat is wild, but they had one of the lowest yards per attempt of any team over the last decade because despite their opportunities, you also had some really horrible games. So you can't just focus in bad defense means good offense if the offense is also bad. It could just be this team sucks.
Yeah.
And you can't really bank on it. But Betz gave the right combination. If it's a bad defense and a good offense, that is the most beautiful thing you could find in fantasy.
For sure. And I think just to wrap this up with this question on Miami, the reason this is being asked because they have lost every single starter in the secondary from last season. And on paper, going into training camp, PFF and Warren Sharp's team and all these kind of advanced analytical minds looking at secondary rankings, they were consensus like 29th, 30th, 31st before the injuries started happening. And they've already had 2 season-ending injuries to players that were supposed to play a lot this year in their secondary. So now they're signing guys off the street. So I think there's a chance Miami just is terrible this year. We've talked about that a lot with like Mike McDaniel's job and all those things. I also think that there is a possibility that the offense just had a down year last year, but is still very good. It's the same guys, right? It's Tua, it's Tyreek, Waddle, Achane, high-flying, exciting players. I think if the offense is good, this defensive issue is going to push them a ton. So this is one where I am baking it in a little bit to my exposures. I fully acknowledge the Dolphins could be terrible, but I am banking into the upside case here because we've already seen them be good.
Yeah, and part of it is I like the Dolphins. Like, I like their offense. And
Right.
that happens to be another part of the equation, but not the main part of buying into the Dolphins offense is because their defense is bad. It's more of an additional thing. That's going to do it for this episode. Next week, Betz and I are going to be sharing our DFS and betting lessons learned. So we're kind of taking everything over the last year. We'll share some about DFS, props, in-season stuff, tournaments, and give some of the high-level stuff. And then over the next month, we will roll out some more strategy-based stuff, talk about how to really crush Showdown so that you guys are ready for week 1. Betz, tell everyone goodbye.
Oh man, Kyle, what a show. For all the listeners and the questions, thank you. For Trey Lance and his heroic performance last night, shout out to you. And Kyle, 5 years of greatness. Here's for another 5. Hope you guys have an awesome weekend. We'll catch you next week. See ya.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com.